I must say that with great importance and great confidence that the most important thing, the most singular important thing that you can work on today is your self image and how you see yourself. Because how you see and how you feel about yourself within your yin realm, within your subjectivity, within this unknown world that no one else sees other than you, is how exactly how you're going to act and be in the world outside of you. And that's exactly what's going to create your tone of speech, your articulation of your speech, and as well as just the way that you act externally. Because acting and being are completely two separate things. You can see that there's actors out there that are not actually that role within themselves, but they simply act and they create that form outside of them, which is basically the geometrics that create that character. So, for example, if you wanted to be a confident person, there are certain forms externally that you could begin to play out, like, having your chest out, speaking with a particular tone of voice, and, looking people in the eyes, not breaking eye contact, and things like that. So there's this method where you can, which is basically called method acting and things like that. So a lot of actors, even if you look into the actor that played Batman, for example, a lot of these actors, or that particular actor, I forgot what his name was, but he got lost into thinking that he was actually the Joker because he went so deeply in it that he began to feel and see himself as it. And you create this symbiotic relationship with this role that is outside of you with your internal realm, and then it begins to be hard to separate down to even when you're in your alone time. You might even start to replicate those characteristics and attributes and things like that. So there's that method acting way where you can create that form externally. But when I'm referring to self-image, I'm referring to how you actually feel and see yourself. Because a lot of people don't feel and see themselves in the greatest possible heights and the greatest possible role. Because really within your mind, within your frame of mind, within your frame of reference, you should be able to reference things about yourselves that make you, I don't want to say superior, but kind of knowing yourself and living in an authentic space, in a space where you authentically and honestly know who you are, and you are being that all the time, because that's when God, gives you this dunamis power, this infinity power. And this power allows you to essentially be able to play that role that God hasn't placed you in so effectively, because you're willing to solve the problems that are in your role that are preventing you from reaching your roles. And for you to even reach those goals and for you to even do those things, you have to be able to see and feel greatly within yourself. That means that you have the capacity to actually carry forward with those things. Because some people, let's say, you want to be an actor, you want to be an artist, let's say, for example, with art, for example, 'cause I like to do art from time to time and shit like that. So a lot of people don't see their imaginations as worthy of even presenting to the public, but yet you can see some artists that make some work that really just seems like, what is that? That doesn't look like it's worth that much, but you can see it in the museum being worth $1 million, $2 million, or whoever, because you can't put really a price on imagination, because imagination is such a unique form that we come up with within our minds and things like that. But the most important thing is, if you don't value yourself, if you don't feel great about yourself, if you don't see yourself in a way that is great. I mean, like, guys, look, I saw this girl online, and she was selling, I can't even believe she was doing this and making money, but she was selling farts in a jar with roses with a note. And there's actually men buying that. Now, she sees worth and value in her farts. So I have to ask people, what makes you think and feel like there's not value in yourself and what you do outside of the self? Because we can clearly see that we live in a very degenerate society that promotes degenerate activity. But when it comes to the people like you and I, the people with dignity and things like that, we don't see and feel great about ourselves because the system is set up in such a way that where if you are a virtuous, you are a man of dignity or a woman of dignity, you will not be celebrated. In fact, you will be tolerated and regulated, meaning that society will not actually appreciate your level of dignity, your kindness, your aptitude or degree of goodness or godliness, because things like that is not celebrated anymore. So when we don't see forms like that outside of ourselves, we begin to degrade ourselves, thinking that we are less than ourselves or less than worth it just based on what's being presented externally in the external environment. And that's exactly where self-image comes in. You have to be able to see and feel greatly about yourself regardless of what goes on in the external environment, because what you cannot allow the external environment to override your internal environment, which is how you feel, how you see about yourself. Meaning that if the universe, because the universe will always challenge you. So if you say you are the sexiest, most handsome man alive, or you are the smartest man alive, or however you want to coach yourself, just understand that the universe will challenge you, because now you are challenging your brain and your own self-image. So a situation will be created so for you to challenge and for you to see and feel that, hey, can you overcome this obstacle? Can you really create that way of thinking? Can you really create that way of feeling around whatever it is that you're trying to create? And when you run away from that based on external situations or based on the previous cycle that we may be very stuck in, the universe doesn't reward that. We take one step backwards and things like that. So we cannot allow the external environment to override our internal environment. Because when you see guys, for example, like Dan Pena, for example, Dan Pena, the way he behaves and the way that he speaks is not acceptable in the Western world. Because if you really are taking a closer look at the events, we are in this liberalized society, this very liberal Western value society. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I can greatly appreciate that coming from the Middle East and things like that, and having the ability to experience new things. But when we don't do things in a balanced way, we get lost in like a desire, in a pleasure, things that really might kill us at the end of the day. Like how you see obese people in the gym, or just obese people in general, they get lost in pleasures, they get lost in food, and their desires and things like that. And they don't really watch their calorie intake or lose that because they're just being gluttons. And this is one of the 7 deadly sins in the Christian religions, which is gluttony and things like that. We just relate to astrological planets and things like that. So that's gluttony and things like that. But going back to Dan Pena, the way that though he acts and the way he goes about his shit is really not accepted in the world. But yet, he is able to maintain a particular altitude of seeing and feeling about himself, and he maintains that form within reality right in front of people. No matter what negative reactions he get, no matter what positive reactions he get, he doesn't really give a fuck. Because if I'm able to come into your life and love bomb you, and imagine you're Dan Pena, and I come there and I love bomb you, like, Dan Pena, man, I love you, man, you're great. Now that's great, but you shouldn't let people's love or people's hate knock you out of your position. You should be so stoic that you just love your state of being, and you don't need love from out there. You have love in you already. You don't hate from outside of you, doesn't matter, because you already know what you hate and where do you stand. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we have to make a stand for us to create this self-image, because if you don't know where you stand, your self-image will constantly be shifting and being polarized by the external environment, and based on us wanting to fit in, based on all these programs that the shadow government or Masons create or whatever, we're not going to be able to understand where we need to make a stand. And making a stand is the most important thing you could do in life, because it's about knowing yourself. I think it was nocef sum in Latin, know thyself, understanding your own relative position within the space and time continuum. Because once you know your relative position and what you're here to do, your own unique cosmological outline, your own unique cosmological imprint, and things like that, yeah, bruh, can nobody fuck with you, because now you know you. Now you see you. Now you're operating from a level where basically there is no devil. Because when you know yourself, when you honestly know yourself beyond anything else in the world, you're able to operate from this unique space that allows you to dominate. Because now you're not trying to fit into society. Now you're not trying to be like what's presented to you on TV, or whatever is the external variable that's being presented to you and things like that. Now you know where you stand. You know where you are, which allows you to be in this unique position to know your stand. To really make a stand, and not to retreat, and not to charge forward just based on what the reality, this matrix, this degenerate matrix simulation, or at least the one here in the West, is presenting you. So, very important. Allow yourself to feel how you want to feel. See things how you want to see things. Experience things how you want to experience things. Interpret. You have your own way of interpreting reality and the information going around you, and formulating that information in your own unique way. This is why we have all these different forms of expression, acting, art, music, all these different right brain methodologies, and all these different left brain methodologies. So don't limit yourself to how the schooling system wants you to think and interpret and practicalize and think about things. You also have the capacity to create a whole new space within that realm of reality, of logic, of left brain interpretation. And you also have this capacity to create your own unique sense of feeling, and your own unique way sense of seeing. And you can reach this high octave, high degree type of fuel mentally that allows you to, which is basically passion, you having your own desire to move a certain way, you having your own feelings. That's you programming your own moon chakra. That's you programming your own root chakra. That's you programming your own throat chakra, and however you see fit. But you need to have authority over yourself. You cannot allow the external environment to have authority over you any longer. You have to be the author figure who authorizes your reality. So then you become an author who is on the rise rather than you being on the decline. Because you cannot be a player in someone else's play. You have to write the play. You have to write the script for you to be able to do that. Very, very, very important. And I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And I'm going to see y'all on the next video. You better fucking believe it. Real shit.